What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Post-Gazette Pirates YouTube channel and podcast network. I'm Noah Hiles. It's Thursday, which means it's time for another mailbag where I answer all of your questions concerning the Pirates and everything going on around the team and the organization. Before we get into that, as always, I encourage you all to read my work, to read my beat partner Colin Beasley's work at post-gazette.com, where we cover the Pirates as thoroughly as we can. It's not just Pirates coverage there as well. We cover all Pittsburgh sports from high school to college to the professional level. And we also cover news that goes on in the city and the surrounding communities. I encourage you to check all of that out at post-gazette.com. Get yourself a digital subscription if you don't have one already. And check out the print product. We print on Thursdays, which is today, and Sundays. So you can get all of that at post-gazette.com. Go check us out. And also, subscribe to this channel if you don't already at PG Pirates. Hit that subscribe button. It would go a long way for us. We really appreciate it. All right, so Mailbag Thursday. Time to get right into it. We'll start off with a question from Max about Joey Bart. He says, what do you do with Joey Bart once he's healthy? The glove is a problem and the bat has regressed. Is it time to see what you have with Hank and Endy? I think so. Right now, I think Henry Davis has to be your everyday catcher until he gives you a reason moving forward to not be. You have to keep playing him every day because he's just so valuable to your franchise. This is a guy that you took 1-1, right? You took him with the first overall pick in the 2021 draft. He has the potential because you see him perform at a high level in every level of baseball aside from the top level, the major leagues. But let's look at those opportunities. 2023, he gets called up and plays right field. 2024, he has a really bad month of April. But he wasn't alone in that camp. A lot of Pirates hitters struggled in April of last year. Henry gets sent down, and then concussions, along with Joey Bart and Yasmani Grandal both playing well, kind of prevent him from getting another opportunity to be an everyday player in the majors. So this is maybe his second chance to get extended playing time, possibly his first chance to get playing time consistently for over a month. I think you owe it to the organization who drafted him 1-1 to give him repetition consistently, day to day, especially if he's showing signs of improvement, which I think you can make a strong case for based off how he's looked in the last couple of weeks. This guy's hitting the ball well. I think he's probably their best defensive catcher in the entire organization right now. So you roll with him. And behind Davis, I think, should be Endy Rodriguez, who missed all of last year, had a really good minor league buildup that brought him to the majors in 2023. I don't think he's better than Henry right now, but he's also a guy that needs opportunity. He got opportunities early on in the season. He struggled like a lot of people. He's injured, or he was injured. He comes back up. These are the two guys that mean the most to your organization at that position. Joey Bart, right now, in my opinion, should be a fallback option. You got to see what you have with two guys behind him. And if Davis and Endy aren't cutting it, if they continue to get opportunities and neither one does anything relevant, then yeah, you go back to Joey Bart being the everyday player when he's healthy. But if either one of them does anything significant, I think you consider moving Joey Bart just because long term, it's better for the Pirates if Henry Davis or Endy Rodriguez ends up being capable of being an everyday player. So you have to give them that opportunity, especially in a year like this year where the playoffs are no longer a realistic option, or a realistic goal, I should say. The best case scenario to come from this 2025 season is to get your young guys to figure it out, to get them some confidence, to figure out as an organization what positions are a big question mark moving forward. If Endy Rodriguez or Henry Davis can have a really good final 100-game stretch, that's huge for the Pirates. And that doesn't just go for the catching position. That goes for a lot of other positions. But the catching position is a primary spot where that logic applies. Joey Bart has been a very good acquisition, perhaps one of the best that Cherington's had when you consider all the position players that they brought in under this regime. They got him for next to nothing. And with that line of thinking, if you can get anything better than, I believe Jackson Wolf was the player they traded for him, then that's a winning acquisition, especially if the younger players who you're you were already banking on being key pillars to the future, if they can pan out to be that, then that's just a win all around. So I think the answer here is you give Joey Bart some time on the pine. Not that he necessarily deserves to be benched compared to other players on the team, but if Henry Davis is playing well, he needs to keep playing well. And if Endy doesn't do well as a backup, then maybe you make Joey the backup, but you got to keep playing Henry Davis until he gives you a reason not to. And then once he gives you that reason, you have to debate who's a better long-term option between Endy and Bart. And I think Endy deserves a little bit more of an opportunity before you write him off as well. Aaron wants to know, what did the Pirates see in Matt Hague? He says this offense is so bad it makes him miss Andy Haynes. And there's a question mark there. Like, do you miss him? I don't know. I think Aaron also submitted this prior to the last 2 games played. But overall, it's still a fair point. The Pirates are still at the bottom 5 in the league in pretty much every offensive category. What did they see in Matt Hague? I think they saw a younger coach who had the potential to communicate better with the players. Andy Haynes, if you want to compare resumes, his resume is a lot better than Matt Hague's. And that's no disrespect to Matt Hague. I'm just saying that, like, Andy Haynes has been a coach a lot longer than Matt Hague. Matt Hague came to Pittsburgh with just 1 year of major league coaching experience, and he wasn't even a major league hitting coach. He was an assistant for the Blue Jays. So he was an up-and-comer. And I think the value that they saw in him was, Haynes didn't connect with some of the guys on this team. Some of the guys just weren't buying what he was preaching. And regardless of how good of a coach you are or a teacher, if people aren't listening to your messaging, to your instruction, it doesn't mean anything. So that's why I felt like they made the move, is just he wasn't getting through to certain guys on the team. So they bring in Hague with the hopes that maybe he can get through to these guys, that a change with someone maybe a little younger, someone who can connect with these players, can get through to them. I don't know if it's fair to judge Hague just yet. Have the first couple of months of the season been good offensively? Absolutely not. They've been atrocious. But most of the players who are doing poorly so far this season have performed poorly under Haynes as well. So, yeah, on one side of the coin, you could say Matt Hague hasn't made anyone any better. But on the other side of the coin, you could say, who's dramatically regressed? I guess Reynolds hasn't had a good year, but do we all believe that Reynolds, his hitting struggles is because of Matt Hague? I don't necessarily think so. When you had enough success to be a 2-time All-Star, your success at the plate shouldn't be dependent on a new hitting coach. You should have that figured out. You should know what's going on. I just think he's in a slump, or looks to be breaking out of it, but he started poorly. You look at other guys, most of them who are struggling, like I said, struggled before under different hitting coaches. So, yeah, he's not making them better, but I don't think he's ruined anyone yet. I think it's too early. And you look at the recent showings. Henry Davis over the last couple of weeks has looked good. I thought Alexander Canario had a solid month. Both of those guys, I think part of the reason they're playing better is because they're playing more frequently. And that's how we should judge Matt Hague for the remainder of the season. Let's see what happens when these young guys get an everyday playing opportunity. Canario never had one of those before. Henry Davis had a very small one, like a month. Let's see how they progress when they get regular at-bats. Jack Sawinski, another guy where Jack's had plenty of opportunities, but this year you look, he dominated in spring training, was the best hitter on the team. He gets to the regular season and they're playing Tommy Pham ahead of him. And he's coming off the bench and pinch hitting in rare situations and tough situations, or he's starting 1 to 2 games a week. It's hard to transition that momentum over to the regular season when you're not getting those repetitions or those reps. And that's not me defending Jack Sawinski. He's still got to perform, but I'm just saying now, with the state of the season, now is the time to figure out what you have, and now is the time for Matt Hague to show what he can do to show, hey, look, these guys, the last time they did get an everyday playing opportunity, they weren't able to capitalize. They are now. I'm the difference. That's the chance he has to show. And I don't think we've seen him get that opportunity just yet, because the first couple months of the season, they were playing other guys in those positions. But now that we're seeing Davis become an everyday player, Canario become an everyday player, I think eventually at some point this season, we'll see Nick York get regular MLB playing time. Potentially Loliver Piguero get everyday major league playing time. Maybe Gorski gets more opportunities. Maybe Sawinski gets more opportunities again. We'll see how these guys perform. And if a couple of them can improve, then that's a good sign that Matt Hague is bringing something different. If they're not improving and other guys are regressing, if Reynolds never gets going, if Hayes doesn't figure it out or anything like that, then yeah, I think that's a bad sign. I'm not entirely sure what Hague's future is with the organization anyway. If Don Kelly's not retained, I'd have to imagine that Hague probably goes as well because the new manager is going to want to bring in a new hitting coach. But if the team plays better and the offense performs better and Kelly's retained, I think Hague has a lot to show for his first season because the offense has been the problem all season long. My big point is it's hard to evaluate him just right now because it's still relatively early. There's still 100-plus games remaining. Anthony asks, what do you think the future holds for Jared Triolo? His struggles at the plate have been an issue for a long time, and they're not at a point where they have a glove-only player. Does he get replaced by guys who are hurt? When guys who are hurt come back, Endy, Nick Gonzalez. I think Jared's always going to be a regular on this Major League roster. It's funny. Jared Triolo is a guy where, 50 years ago, Jared Triolo was an everyday player on a Major League Baseball team. It felt like you look at the lineups of teams back then, every team had one or two guys who just couldn't hit but were great fielders. That was a lot more valuable back then than it is now. And I still think Jared Triolo is very valuable, just maybe not to the Pirates. You look at a team like the Boston Red Sox, who are top 5 in the league in slugging, and I think second worst in fielding percentage. Triolo is valuable in that setting because you have guys who are consistently producing offense, and he gives you something that you need. On this team, like Anthony kind of noted, they don't have enough hitters to really maximize Triolo's value right now. Does optioning him solve that? I don't think so because, again, this is a year where you should be giving everyone an opportunity to grow, especially the younger guys like Triolo, who won a Gold Glove in his first full season in the major leagues. So he should continue getting playing time as well. Long term, I don't know what Jared Triolo's future looks like in Pittsburgh. Like I said, he's a valuable asset. He's an ideal bench player for a team that has a really good, productive lineup. But the Pirates don't have that right now. And when you have to play him every day and you rely on him for some sort of offensive production, that's when you run into problems like we're seeing with Jared. So I don't think you option him. I think there are just other guys like Solak will go down before him and other players. But yeah, long term, like when you ask what the actual future holds, I don't know. It'll be interesting because I think he could maybe be a valuable trade piece in the offseason for a team that is looking to improve its defense, a team that already has a really good, productive lineup. Juice wants to know why locals are so critical of Cruz at times. He said he listened to the local radio Saturday morning, and we had people criticizing him for admiring his home runs and not coming out of the box faster after single-handedly winning the team a game Friday night. It's insane. Yeah, I think there's a couple of things. I think there are some people who are just never going to like Oneil Cruz just because, he bat flips and admires home runs and maybe what he looks like even plays a factor in that. And those people, they're never going to change their mind. I'm not accusing every single person who dislikes Oneil Cruz of falling in that camp, by the way. I just think there are some people who, whether they're cognizant of it or not, that plays a factor into their disliking of Oneil. Again, not saying it's you specifically, viewer. I'm just saying there are some people who fall into that category. And those people, they'll never like it. And it is what it is. But why is there other frustration connected to Oneil Cruz? I do think there's an actual answer. For the people who, aren't put off by the way he, will bat flip or admire home runs, I think there are some people who just have crazy high expectations for him, which I don't think are super unrealistic. It's just a weird scenario where he's such an athletic freak, right? Like all you hear about with this guy is his crazy exit velocities, or how fast he is, or how hard he can throw, how much ground he can cover. And when you see someone who's just that genetically gifted freak, the expectations go through the roof. Oneil Cruz has had an incredibly high bar since he arrived to the Pirates at the major league level. How many players can you name that fell into a camp of the moment they became a big leaguer, they were expected to be the best player on their team? That's the situation Oneil Cruz has been living with since he became a big leaguer. Now, to be fair, there's a reason that expectation exists. It's because he can be that. There's no one who's watched this guy play who thinks his raw talent isn't good enough to make him a top 10 player in the game. It's just getting there. Right now, he's a good player. His numbers are much better than what they were last year at this time. I think he's taking a step forward. I also think that he's not close to scratching the surface on his true potential. Will that happen here this year? Will that happen here in general? I do not know. But I do think he's progressing. I just think people hoped that by now, in what has been he debuted at the end of 21, played half a season in 22, missed off 23. 24 is his first full season. So this is like his fifth year of playing at least some time at the major league level. I think people hope that by now, this guy would be among the same conversation as an Ohtani, a Soto, a Betts. He's not there yet. A Lindor. He's not in that camp yet. He's not even an all-star yet. He might be an all-star even this year, and that's progress. But there have been factors that have kind of delayed his progression. But I do think that he can get there. It's just been a bumpier road than a lot of people anticipated. A lot of people just thought he was going to show up and be a superstar immediately, like we saw with Juan Soto, essentially. He's not that. He's not that yet. It's taken a little bit more time. I still think it can happen. And if you can't recognize that at least a little bit of progress, not even a little bit, significant progress has been made in the last 365 days, then you're just not paying attention, or you're not willing to admit it. Because the guy is walking at a much higher rate. He's hitting left-handers at a much better rate. He's stealing bases. He's getting better. The fielding is what it is. He still hasn't played a full season at that position. But his offense is quickly becoming a huge problem for other teams. He just needs a little bit more time. The expectations are high. I do think he'll eventually meet them. And if he does meet them and is still getting criticized day in and day out while other guys are seemingly getting a pass, then I don't know what to tell those people. But to answer your question, Juice, I do think he is heavily criticized just because expectations are so high, and his rise to being an elite player has taken a little bit longer than some people would have liked. John wants to know, do you think Burrows and Ashcraft are up to build potential trade value for a hitter at or before the trade deadline? Probably not this year, no. Do I think that Burrows and Ashcraft could be dealt for a hitter? Yeah, I do. I don't think it's going to happen this trade deadline, simply because you need to see what their true value is at this level. I don't think, both of them pitched Burrows pitched twice so far this season. Ashcraft pitched 3 innings on Monday. So we're about to enter June. So 2 months and a couple of outings on top of it. That's not enough of a sample size for, I think, any major league team to determine what the value is. So who knows what kind of trade return you're getting. I think if either of those guys are moved for a hitter, it probably comes in the offseason. I say probably. You could look at them and potentially view them in a position similar to Priester last year, where it's where do these guys fit in the future rotation? However, Priester had been up for a lot longer than both of them. Both of these guys are still well into their first couple of opportunities at the major league level. So I think they're up here right now just to see. Well, one, they've earned it, right? They've earned the opportunity. They've had success in AAA. I know Ashcraft's ERA wasn't good this year in AAA, but his overall numbers in AAA are pretty good. And Burrows had a really good season so far in AAA. So they've earned that right to pitch at the major league level, especially on a team that isn't really going anywhere this year. But the Pirates need to figure out what these guys can do at the game's highest level. It's just that time in their progression. And then once you figure out, or once you get a little bit of a better idea of what you have with these guys after playing a full or close to a full major league season, 4 months as opposed to 2 months, then you can determine, okay, are we going to deal these guys? Are we going to make them starters? Are they relievers? Are they someone who's in that tweener category, kind of like a Luis Ortiz was not long ago? That's what the Pirates are kind of looking for by having them both up here right now. I also think both of these guys are going to be players that go up and down from Indy multiple times before the season's over, just because they can fill multiple roles. Got a couple questions left, but before we get to them, we want to hear from our show's presenting sponsor, which is Greenewalt Roofing.
Hey, Pittsburgh. When you think of great roofs, you think Greenewalt Roofing Company. With over 20 years experience, Greenewalt knows your roof is your home's first line of defense from rain, wind, snow, and ice. That's why Greenewalt Roofing's standard for perfection is so important. You can trust that their team of experienced installers will treat your property like it's their own. When it comes to roof replacements, Greenewalt Roofing is Pittsburgh's only choice. Visit greenewaltroofing.com today or call 412-314-8882 to schedule your free estimate. PA contractor number 36262.
All right, a couple more questions here to be answered. The first one comes from Spurs. He said, how does this team realistically improve the offense in the next 2 seasons other than hoping for internal improvement? Well, there's a couple of ways. I mean, you do have assets. Like, you have to look at what you currently have in the org, and you have to determine if you can find better value from it with that price point. You look at a value of a pitching prospect. Let's use Hunter Barco, for example. Hunter Barco's ceiling is probably a number 3 starter in the major leagues. There's obviously some injury risk. There's obviously also just the risk of him not panning out to his potential. So you have to weigh the risk reward of giving up a potential number 3 quality left-handed big league starter as a prospect for someone of that equivalent as a position player. Could you go and offer him, similar to like the Priester thing where they got a guy in an identical situation with Nick York, where former first-round pick, they don't really have a spot for him. He's in a position of depth in the Red Sox organization. Let's trade for pitching. That's what the Pirates did there, right? You can make a similar move with Barco, and I think you could probably get something a little bit better than what they got in York. And I don't necessarily hate York as a player. I think York could be an everyday player in the major leagues. I'm just saying that you could get something maybe a little bit more, because I think Barco's ceiling is a little higher than Priester's. So you can make a move like that, but you have to determine, are you willing to take that gamble, or would you rather wait for Barco to get to the major leagues to make that deal? So that's one way you do it. You get young, controllable talent like we've seen them do as of late, like they did with the Horwitz deal, right? Trading Ortiz for a guy who's controllable with that. The other thing you could do is trade financial assets, like big financial commitments, I should say. You look at a guy like Brian Reynolds and you really think hard and think, all right, well, could we get more from the money that we're going to pay Brian Reynolds for the remainder of his contract? Could we get more from someone else at that price point? And if you believe that's the case, then you offload Brian Reynolds and you try to either get an equal or better hitter in a trade return, or you trade him for something, you clear that money, and then you use that money in free agency. The same thing could be said for Mitch Keller, who right now is looking to be probably, like, long-term, the number 3 starter in the rotation. He's going to be making more than the entire rotation combined on his own. So you look at that and it's like, all right, well, could we get more value out of the money that we're going to pay Mitch Keller from another player? And like, you trade a guy like Keller for a young, controllable bat. Now you have $16 to $17 million more to spend to make up for his disappearance on the payroll. That's the trade logic for it. That's probably the more realistic logic for it, right? Because until I'm proven wrong, they're not going to go out and they're probably not going to go out and sign a big name. They certainly have the space to do it, you would think. And you would have a lot more space to do it if you were to trade a Reynolds or a Keller for a pre-arb player that could be an everyday contributor, and then you use that money to sign a free agent. So there are ways to do it. It's a lot more complicated than simply just going out and signing someone, which most teams would just do. But that's probably the most realistic way that they improve the offense, would be to like flip Keller for an everyday pre-arb player, like flipping Keller for like another Horwitz, for example, which I know people would not love that idea. But the idea of doing it with Keller would be, it's like, okay, it's like, well, that's another everyday above average bat that we can have in the lineup. And then you take Keller's money and you invest it in an actual free agent, or you use it to extend Cruz. I would probably think that would take a lot more money to do, though. So yeah, you take the money that you would have paid Keller, and in addition to the trade return you get for him, you spend that money on a proven big league bat. So now you essentially move Keller and replace him with 2 everyday hitters in exchange for 1 proven pitcher. That would be the most realistic way to do it by the Pirates' business standards. Or like I said, you could just go out and spend money and buy someone in free agency who is a proven hitter. So that's the realistic way. And the other realistic way is continuing to build a successful front office by having just better analytics, better scouting, better development. All of that stuff is super important for a team of this size. And so by continuing to invest in that, and I know that's not the sexy answer, and I know that some baseball purists hate hearing me say that, but that is the only way that you find sustained success at a market this size. Final question comes from Tyler. Will it take a new GM to end the front office's false optimism, or would a new GM be forced to continue the same delusion? I mean, every GM is going to believe that what they're doing is right. You have to have that confidence, because if you don't believe that better days are ahead and you're the primary decision maker, then you shouldn't be in that position. Like if Ben Cherington came to the podium and was like, we are screwed, there is no hope, then, I mean, why would he have a job? I know some people are questioning why he has a job to begin with at this point, but I'm just saying that you have to believe that you were right and that these struggles are due to, an anomaly, an unexpected factor, that you're just getting bad luck. That's what you have to believe when you're in that position. You obviously have to also identify that like things aren't working and work to be better, but you have to believe that it's going to work out if you keep making your decisions. Otherwise, if you don't have confidence, you're not getting anywhere. So I think every GM is going to keep preaching this optimism. It comes off as false optimism right now because it just hasn't worked. And I think that that's a fair thing to label it as, just because it's correct. It's been false so far. There hasn't been much to be optimistic about as far as success is concerned for this team. But a new GM, they're going to come in and they're going to probably have similar rhetoric to what Cherington has had. It's, that guy's going to believe, or girl is going to believe, that they're making the right decisions and that they have the right people in place to get the most out of the players within the organization. So that's all I got for today. Big thanks to everyone who followed along. Again, check out all of my work. Check out all of my coworkers' work at post-gazette.com. Get yourself a digital subscription if you don't have one already. Check out the print product that comes out on Thursdays and Sundays for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. And subscribe to this YouTube channel if you don't already at PG Pirates.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.